It was a getaway called the Swallows Homestead, but in the space of 40 minutes it was barely recognisable after fire ripped through the century-old house at Millfield. About 9 o'clock, neighbours called 000 to report the property on Lewis Road was burning to the ground. 3 fire and rescue units and 4 from the Rural Fire Service raced to the scene, but their efforts to save the structure were unsuccessful.
Went up fairly quickly, a full timber building with a little bit of asbestos involved.
Only 1 hour earlier, owner Susie Whitehead-Pope left the property for a meeting in Cessnock before she got the news to turn back. The Sydney Woman's Weekender sits on the same site as 2 bed and breakfasts which were unaffected by the mid-morning blaze. Well, just behind me here is the remains of what was a 100-year-old 4-bedroom Federation home. It was moved to this site in 1986, and in October this year, it was set to hold its centenary celebrations. Fire investigators are still piecing together the cause of the blaze, which isn't being treated as suspicious. Michael Kane, NBN News.
A historic day for shipbuilding, but Newcastle was a notable omission from today's announcement.
Yes, it means that from 2020 onwards, we will have a build-up to about 2,500 workers employed continuously in surface naval shipbuilding here in Australia. Most of them will be in Adelaide.
South Australia is the big winner. The PM says there will be opportunities for other parts of Australia, with tenders to be called in October.
There'll be a competitive evaluation process for both the offshore patrol vessels or the corvettes and for the future frigates.
Forjax can vie for the projects, but with construction a few years off, it's little help to current workers.
I think it's hard to give anyone hope out of this announcement over the next 3 years. There's no work that's been announced that will take place before 2018.
Forjax says the announcement is welcome news for the industry, but it has come too late to retain the shipbuilding skills which have been developed over the last 6 years on the Air Warfare Destroyer contract, adding that Forjax has great shipbuilding pedigree and should be involved in the construction of ship modules. The campaigning will continue.
This $40 billion announcement, we need to make sure that it's maximised local content, South Australian, Victorian and also New South Wales, but mainly here in the Hunter region.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Well, the most important thing is that the public reclaims this land. It's their land and the court has agreed that it's their land, and this wire has to come down, the cars have to go, and it has to be put back into the park.
At least 1,100 homeless people and those doing it tough flooded the Broadmeadow PCYC, a bittersweet outcome for organisers.
Absolutely. Our job is to put ourselves out of a job, essentially. So unfortunately, though, that's not the case. The figures of homelessness seem to be increasing every year.
Since 2009, the Hunter Homeless Connect Day has linked those in need to an array of support services, including refuges and government housing, which they say desperately need more funding.
Currently in this area there are roughly around about 8,000 people on the wait list. It's a 5 to 10 year wait.
In the meantime, it's a sad reality.
Sleeping in cars, they're couch surfing, they're trying to get into crisis accommodation. We know some people sleep in the bush.
The Governor of New South Wales chipped in, handing out blankets, while his wife Linda tested out specialised swags for those sleeping rough.
Look at the issues that exist in the Hunter region, and while we're here, give a helping hand like everyone else is.
From free clothing to health checks, even medical treatment for a possible broken toe, it was a one-stop shop.
The lady's looking after it for me and giving me some advice, bandaging it up, and it feels better already.
TAFE students provided hundreds of free haircuts, making all the difference for those struggling to make ends meet.
My daughter and I are in a refuge at the moment. waiting to find a place.
Pampering with a trim and style, a welcome treat.
Oh, they're wonderful. They should be very proud of themselves.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It's a game that we have to prepare very seriously because from experience we know always there's a surprise and we have to make sure that we're not one of them.
I think this morning the feeling of excitement definitely ramped up and we're like, we're finally going to Sydney, it's time for the competition to begin. So this one's kind of just a condensed version of that. So it's fantastic that we can come to Newcastle and, we're still close to Sydney. It's not that far for us to drive today, but it's just really a chance for us to get to touch the ball and get together as a team.
Tyler Randall's solo effort impressed many, his coach included. Initiative which could earn him more responsibility in the future.
Great try by Tyler and a good sign for him and the team. He just backed himself and they're the sort of players you need in your team at this time of the year.
Carlos Tuamavave didn't run with the main group today and appeared hampered in the weekend's loss. While uncertainty still surrounds Aku Uate's fitness, his workload will increase later in the week in an attempt to make a return. Fellow winger James McManus still hasn't begun training following a concussion sustained in round 20.
He's still having ongoing effects from that concussion, so he'll be a little bit away, but we'll see. It's just a week-to-week proposition with Jimmy.
David Farlongo is clearly on the mend after he missed last weekend with a neck problem, while Tarek Sims will emerge from cotton wool against the Roosters. It's hoped he'll be refreshed for the remaining 5 rounds.
Disappointed I couldn't play. As a player, you want to play every game, but Beds advised me to have a week off and rest up for the last 5 games of the season.
Just give Tarek a rest last week just to get him ready for this back end of the season and really bring this team with its aggression stakes and energy and stuff that we need in the middle, and I think Tarek can do that for the back end.
The Knights last claimed the wooden spoon in 2005. 10 years on, it looms large.
I don't know how the other boys are thinking, but I desperately do not want that.
Paddy Kilmurray, NBN News.
He's only been competing for 4 years. But Cameron McKenzie is clearly built for powerlifting. The 22-year-old was a dominant force at the Australian Championships in bench press and deadlift and set a record in the squat.
I won my weight class for the event in the under 120s. I was ranked #1 junior in the country and I came 2nd overall in the country for all ages, all weights.
The self-funded athlete is hoping powerlifting will be added to the Olympic program, enabling him to receive government support to help him train and compete.
So over the last few years I've spent tens of thousands of dollars to be able to represent my country, but I'm getting to the point now where I'm starting to get some funding and some good sponsorship.
For now, success at the World Games in 2017 would be his ultimate achievement. Before then, he's focusing on other events.
So next year my big goal is to get ranked #1 junior in the world for all weight classes and also to win my respective weight class at the World Championships.
Jeffrey Michael Strong emerging from court still in his high-vis uniform. Yesterday, the 44-year-old Warrabrook man went to work at Crawford's Transport at Sandgate. At about 2:45 p.m, there was a minor collision between the prime mover he was driving and a forklift, being controlled by a 45-year-old man from Beresfield. It's alleged an argument took place before Strong started punching the other man in the head.
The company, from my understanding, is a very, very good company. Most employees get on well, and this is just a very, very tragic situation.
Police say the victim was still sitting inside the forklift when he was allegedly punched in the head several times and became unconscious. He was taken to John Hunter Hospital, where he passed away a short time later. Strong has been charged with assault causing death. Today, he was granted bail under strict conditions, including that he report to Waratah Police Station every day, doesn't make contact with any witnesses or members of the deceased's family, and doesn't approach or enter the site of Crawford's Freight Lines. He's due to reappear in Newcastle Local Court in September. Vivienne von Drainen, NBN News.
We've had about 3 attempts to do this particular burn in the last 9 months. Usually been thwarted by weather. It's either too hot, too windy or too wet.
It's now more than 8 years since lockouts were introduced in Newcastle, and according to a survey by Newcastle Council, people are viewing the city in a different light. 71% of people quizzed didn't have a negative experience on their last nighttime visit.
Our City After Dark has given us very positive results and good feedback that people now feel much safer when they go out at many different locations.
The results show Honeysuckle is the most popular place to go after dark, followed by Derby Street and the CBD. The top activity was dining, while going to a pub came second. The survey also looked at the reasons why people don't visit the city at night, with the main concern identified as parking. Longtime community campaigner Tony Brown puts the results down to the lockouts.
We have a much more safer, vibrant and diverse nighttime economy, but we've also sustained a reduction in alcohol-related violence.
But the Lord Mayor says it might be time to rethink the restrictions.
And I actually think we need to go a step further and look at post-lockout, how do we incentivise good operators? That might mean they get to trade for longer.
Vivienne von Drainen, NBN News.
How best to revitalise Newcastle city centre? Everyone's got an opinion, some more controversial than others, and soon they'll all be up for discussion.
This is a chance for everybody with an interest in our CBD, shoppers, visitors, to say this is how we want our CBD to look in the future.
In February, the state government released its concept for the city's renewal. It sparked outrage from some over what appears to be development on the rail corridor. Next week, Newcastle Council and Urban Growth will begin further community consultation.
The truncation of the heavy rail line has given the potential to open up an enormous amount of new public space.
The Property Council believes Newcastle can learn a lot from international cities like Dallas, which has embraced light rail.
We'll be saying to government that running light rail from Wickham to Newcastle Beach is a good start, but we need a much more expanded network over the next few decades.
Andrew Fletcher has just returned from a US fact-finding mission and says he was impressed by the seamless mix of development and open public space, something he hopes could be implemented here.
But we can certainly take elements from all of those cities and learn from them and apply them to what we need to do here in Newcastle. And that is to have this ambition to be the very best regional city in the world. I mean, we should be setting our sights that high.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
A taste test to decide the region's best snags.
This is an opportunity for the butchers to showcase how good they do things in their workplace and promote the sausages.
The Sausage King finals are run by the Australian Meat Industry Council, and Hamilton TAFE was the venue. And it wasn't just your tried and true barbecue variety up for a gong. The gourmet section proved the toughest to pick, from apple and fennel to lamb cheese and Vegemite. But the flavour that had the judges in a frenzy was a mix of crocodile, sweet chilli and mango.
Well, at the end of the day, there's always a winner and there's always a loser. But let's face it, who cares about the loser? We're going in to visit the Sausage King. Bede, congratulations, another year, another winner.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's always a good thing to win, and to do it back-to-back's awesome, yeah.
Lambton butcher Bede Jarrett snagged the traditional Australian sausage title, and the secret to his success.
Fresh ingredients and a very old traditional recipe that was given to me from an old butcher. It is a trade, but there's an art that comes with it. Yeah, over the years you sort of perfect things right.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Us as a forward pack, you can't really focus on what they've done in the past. We just got to focus on them coming to Newcastle and trying to take our 2 points off us.
There's some key things we still need to work on to make sure that when we go into that game we're competitive and all on the same page.
They were never supposed to be in the hunt against Melbourne City, but a penalty to Edgeworth in the 24th minute gave Bren Hamill a golden opportunity.
It was only about a month before that I actually missed a penalty at that exact spot, same side of the park and everything. So, but actually not terribly nervous. It was great for the team.
City equalised before the break as Aaron Moy left Edgeworth keeper Ben Smith flat-footed. The two sides traded blows in the second half, but ultimately Moy would prove the difference with a winner that only came in stoppage time.
I grew up playing with him at NSWIS and against him, and he's always been a class above. And again, last night it was very evident how good he actually is.
While disappointed with the result, the Eagles took plenty of pride in their effort against the cashed-up A-League club. But now the focus switches back to winning the NPL title. With 2 rounds left in the regular season, Edgeworth sits 3 points clear on top, but the players are wary of a post-cup hangover.
We've learned a lot from this match, and we want to carry that into the last 2 matches of the regular season and into the final series, and carry this enthusiasm and excitement through.
It's good to get out of the way, and I'm notoriously bad in the morning, so it's good to get another swim in that event. I haven't swum internationally before, so yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight.
I can't wait to go home. I haven't seen, some family and friends in a year, so as soon as I get back there, that'll be one of the first things I do.
surreal to me because, I'm finally here and playing for LSU, so I've been waiting so long to finally do that, and I feel like we've built up a lot of team chemistry so far, and we look really good.
The male's taken some property being chased out of the house and down the street. A neighbour who was alerted to what was going on has also given chase to the male.
It's a heartbreaking scene. Graham Arkenstall's 100-year-old family home was one of the worst hit when floodwater came surging through Stroud.
To get the wife onto the roof, she fell out the window into the water and it's all dark, furniture floating past.
Months on from the devastating storm, life still hasn't returned to normal.
It's day after day, cleaning, picking stuff up, there's stuff all over the paddock.
Down the road, all Craig Hindmarsh and his wife Michelle can do is wait.
We've got no lower walls, they've had to pull some floors out. The wiring needs redoing now because everything's been wet.
They may have lost everything, but one thing they haven't lost is a sense of community.
People we did not know turned into friends. The local Lions Club has helped us financially as well as emotionally.
In the days that followed the storm, signs like this one started popping up outside of homes, and it's that amazing community spirit that continues to drive Stroud's recovery. But even a close-knit town has a breaking point. The much-loved Stroud showground, for the most part, is still out of bounds.
It's the hub of our community. People come and just meet, come for a walk.
With a damage bill of $1.2 million, Great Lakes Council is relying on state and federal disaster funding to fix the complex.
We're all trying to be very positive that that the funding will come through, and well, it has to. It has to come through.
Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
It was an attempt to break the stalemate on the Gallipoli Peninsula, but the operation designed to divert a Turkish regiment instead drew an entire division on the Australian Brigade. And today marks the centenary of what became known as the Battle of Lone Pine.
Over 4,000 Australians, mainly men of the 1st Brigade, made up of the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Infantry Battalions, put in against heavily entrenched Turks.
The four-day battle saw around 2,000 Australians and 7,000 Turkish soldiers die in an area of around about the size of 2 football fields. Despite the slaughter, Lone Pine was deemed a limited success.
The Turks were heavily entrenched with trenches actually covered with pine logs. And it was a case of breaking into those trench systems and fighting hand to hand.
A few hundred Hunter Valley men were involved in the battle, including Maitland man Robert Scobie.
We don't really know where Colonel Scobie is buried, only that it's in the cemetery somewhere at Lone Pine with hundreds of other Australians who died in that particular battle 100 years ago.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Nobody wants to find one of these in or around their home. But with spider season just around the corner, they're like spun gold to the Australian Reptile Park at Summersby. It's where funnel webs are milked to create anti-venom.
I need about 500 male funnel web spiders. We've just come out of winter. I'm down to around about 100, so I need lots and lots of funnel webs.
And the park is looking for public help. Rangers say if you go about it safely and as long as you're a grown-up, catching one of these creepy crawlies is easier than you might think.
You can place a jar in front of the spider and invariably it'll just walk into the jar. Pop the top on, keep it in the shade away from the kids.
Also make sure there's a little soil in there to keep it alive. It can then be dropped off to the John Hunter or a Central Coast hospital.
Pathology North Hunter has worked in conjunction with the Reptile Park for probably 20 years, receiving spiders and transferring them to the Reptile Park.
The reason why the park needs so many spiders is because they only produce such a small amount of venom. It takes 70 milkings to produce 1 ampule of anti-venom. The park maintains the spiders until they die of natural causes. If in doubt about catching a funnel web, contact the Reptile Park. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
It goes towards equipment for the care and comfort of the patients in the hospital. We did buy a scalp cooling machine, which is around $50,000.
They were the centre of attention at Newcastle TAFE today, but this weekend the Knights will carry the recognise message to NRL fans. Tyrone Roberts and Dane Gagai were happy to model the jersey, promoting the movement to recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in the Constitution.
It's a big part of me. I'm a proud Indigenous man, and when I take that field, it's gonna run deep.
Sunday's game is also an opportunity to show solidarity with an AFL star.
I'm fully supportive of what Adam Goods is doing, and I know a lot of people, Indigenous people are, and even non-Indigenous people.
Indigenous League players have also faced a fight for respect. Knights legend Ashley Gordon says he experienced racism on and off the field, but it was rarely discussed.
A lot of people are uneducated and ignorant when it comes to Aboriginal culture and history, and I think the more we can learn and appreciate our history and our culture, the more we're going to get on better together.
The current Knights face a Roosters side looking for 7 straight wins. During the corresponding fixture last year, Roberts produced a huge second half to carry Newcastle to victory.
I think it was just a bit of belief. A couple of players got injured, and there's only one way out of it, and that was just to rip in, and the boys stood up.
As for the rest of the squad, Cade Snowden looks set to miss Sunday's game, with Sam Mataora his likely replacement. Beau Scott and David Farlongo also missed today's session, but are rated a stronger chance of playing. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Has anyone ever put glasses on you and said you resemble the Milky Bar Kid?
No, they haven't. I saw that one actually last night.
The FFA took control of the Jets 10 weeks ago, promising to find new owners before the start of the A-League season. Damien de Bowen maintains that plan is still on track.
We're in constant meetings, it's progressing really well, and we're excited about what that may well hold for the club in the near future.
Mitchell Murphy was appointed as CEO by Nathan Tinkler in February. Today, he was let go. Football officials didn't give a specific reason for his departure, simply saying he's not part of the plan.
So the leadership of the club was something that was important to new owners, so that's part of why we've made this decision and consideration. And look, we wanted to let Mitchell know as early as we possibly could that that's the way it was shaping.
Northern New South Wales Chief Executive David Eland has been appointed Jets CEO on an interim basis to prepare the club for the transition. He says there's no chance he could do both jobs long term.
This is a short-term role, and I've got to make sure that I also keep focused on the football community here locally, so haven't thought past the ensuing months.
Considering Northern New South Wales football also looks after the Newcastle W League side, Eland will have plenty to do.
So it's my objective over the next few months to work with the staff at both organisations to make sure that the club is prepared as it possibly can be.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Tonight's meeting was organised by local Labor MP Kate Washington in response to what she says is rising community concern about more trucks on Nelson Bay Road. More than 50 people turned out at Williamtown Hall, including residents and representatives from the Department of Planning, RMS and company Macca's Sand. It's owned by Port Stephens Mayor Bruce Mackenzie and his son Robert, and they're seeking to modify its current truck limit. The company has applied to increase the number of trucks allowed in and out of the mine from 8 per hour to 24. It's made no application to increase the amount of product mined at the site. Miss Washington says the changes would pose a safety risk.
Safety-wise, there's a number of issues, but I mean, we had a fatality here last week on this stretch, which is truly awful, and to increase the number of B-doubles can only make that situation worse.
Robert Mackenzie says Miss Washington's comments are incorrect, labelling it a witch hunt. He maintains there would be no additional trucks on the road.
Oh, look, we want flexibility and we want to increase it to 24 trucks per hour. And there might be times that we will get to it. There might be times we won't get anywhere near it.
The Department of Planning will make a final decision. Renee Feder, NBN News.
The smoking ban triggered anarchy in a Victorian prison. Riot police were called to Melbourne Remand Centre after 300 inmates went on the rampage last week. Cessnock Corrective Centre authorities don't believe next week's statewide tobacco ban will mirror scenes south of the border.
There's nothing to indicate at this point in time there's anything similar to Victoria. The department will not put up or tolerate inappropriate behaviour.
As of Monday, all New South Wales corrective facilities will become smoke-free. The real worry here is that inmates could become aggressive, but in other areas where it already is in force, it hasn't been the case.
In fact, the opposite happens because you don't have people having highs and lows with tobacco like they do with any other drug. You actually get a bit of a flatlining and a much calmer environment.
Smoke-free zones include all buildings and grounds as well as car parks. Today, staff were going through their final paces with special riot training in readiness for any incident.
Part of the training and preparations is to make sure that staff and inmates are aware of the potential issue in terms of heightened tension in the centre.
A 3-week amnesty period will be established to support the change from Monday. Michael Kane, NBN News.
For Judith Daddo, this was once a much happier home. The mother of 2 purchased the portable house with her father's inheritance, and when the roof started leaking, she turned to Centrepoint Roofing for a solution. Instead, she's now facing a much bigger problem.
I know 4 sheets went up, and then it wasn't until the rain, unfortunately, that I realised it wasn't fixed at all.
Despite paying more than $2,000, water has continued to flow into the home, causing further damage, which is also taking a toll on Judith's health.
Unfortunately, I became allergic to the mould, and I had to take myself to hospital 3 times. 2 times I had a rash all over me, but unluckily the 3rd time was quite scary. My mouth was swelling up, my throat was swelling up, and that was really scary.
Other tradesmen have since identified the cause of the initial leak, meaning Judith needs to find more money she doesn't have.
I'm sure other people are in my boat, that they can't afford to just suddenly fork out another $3,000 or whatever. So, yeah, it's quite disappointing.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
To allow families to really be informed, understanding of their child, and be able to look at ways of how they can get the best form of help and support.
Felt pretty good in the water, and it just wasn't too hard, wasn't too easy. So hopefully I got a bit more reserve for tonight.
This is where success is built and refined. Paul Parks preparing another magic carpet for Philippa Anderson in her attempt to qualify for the Dream Tour.
A lot of people don't understand how important equipment is for a surfer, but this is massive in confidence and I suppose just your mindset in general to have a good board under your feet.
It's everything, basically. Confidence is everything in surfing.
Parks is Anderson's longtime shaper. He's ridden the ups and downs and watched her develop into one of the country's most promising talents. Much of her performance rests on his shoulders.
Surfing's very much a confidence game, so when you've got something that's working, you're kind of best off to stick with it.
It's a crucial stage in her career. There are limited opportunities remaining to secure the points required to qualify. A big result in El Salvador would go a long way.
She's probably in a position where if she could get a semi-final or a final in this one, almost go as far as saying it'd pretty much cement her position. But yeah, this big long right-hand point break is right up her alley, and provided she can get the waves, she'll do really well.
Anderson is due to surf her round 2 heat tomorrow. A red card which could have a huge impact on the Two Blues campaign.
It's massive, I think. He's their leader in their pack and adds a bit of their grunt and aggression, so to speak. So it's a big loss for them.
This is the alleged eye gouge incident which happened in this melee. Touch judge Brendan Farrer in full view. Eye gouging carries a minimum 12-week suspension. On Monday, additional charges of stomping and dangerous play were added to Kevill's rap sheet.
Are you confident he'll beat those new charges?
Yeah, look, we feel very confident that he'll be able to get through that. So, that's just a matter of process and seeing how that all comes out once he goes to the judiciary.
The Two Blues went on to win with 14 men, a resounding performance under difficult circumstances. Their premiership credentials on show.
Definitely built a lot of team character from that win on the weekend. Just in the sheds after it, you can see just how much it meant to the guys. And I think we'll take a lot out of that from the weekend. But there's still a lot to work on from that game as well.
The Hawks have only lost one game and are still outright competition leaders. Scott Coleman is confident but wary.
Were you happy with your side last week?
Yes and no, still patchy to be honest.
What would a win do for your side heading into the semi-finals?
It'd be everything to be honest. We get that week off, we'll be pretty well locked up minor premiership.
In other games, Maitland tackled the Tars, Greens host the Bay and Beaches take on the Bulls.
Fullerton Cove residents breathed a sigh of relief in 2013 when Dart Energy announced it was suspending its field operations across the state. But 2 years later, Lindsay Clout from the Residents Action Group says there's still uncertainty about the area's future.
The buyback would be the last step in the process of securing Fullerton Cove as a coal seam gas-free area.
The group wants the state government to purchase Petroleum Exploration Licence 458, saying it's an important step for the entire region.
The Petroleum Exploration Licence covers all of the Lower Hunter. It's 2,000 square kilometres. Not only will the buyback protect Fullerton Cove, it will protect all of Newcastle.
So far, the state government has bought back 15 licences under the scheme, including those owned by AGL in Hunter Wine Country last month. A spokesperson for the Minister for Resources and Energy says the scheme remains open for any title holder who is interested, adding the government will not approve the transfer of any petroleum title to another party until buyback discussions have been exhausted. Meanwhile, members of the Fullerton Cove Action Group will head to State Parliament on Thursday to support a bill proposed by the Greens to prohibit CSG mining.
I think it's important that people get together and let the politicians know that we're still here and we're still pushing for that final step.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
It's another town that's counting the cost of the superstorm. In April, local businesses in Cessnock were brought to their knees with more than 250 losing power, while in excess of 600 were forced to close temporarily.
Most of the main street was shut off from power-wise for up to 2 days. Some areas were closed for a lot longer.
Cessnock City Council has released the findings of a business study showing that 76% of those surveyed say their business was impacted by the natural disaster.
We only have a 54,000 population here, and our businesses are already stretched from legacy, from mining impacts. So for smaller businesses particularly, this is really hard.
The report provides critical information for support services for local businesses in the future. For example, only 34% of registered businesses were adequately covered for insurance.
The only thing you can learn from is how you react to it afterwards and how you can be best prepared to deal with it.
One business that felt the brunt of the storm was the Royal Oak Hotel in Vincent Street, which was out of action for 7 days.
We weren't expecting it at all. We had no warning that it was coming through. It was literally just waking up on Tuesday morning and there was water everywhere, so we couldn't really do too much to prepare.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
We started in a small way and way back 32 years ago, and now we're taking into the many thousands of dollars in taking, so it's been great.
I felt pretty good in the water, and it just wasn't too hard, wasn't too easy. So hopefully I got a bit more reserve for tonight.
A closed session on the eve of their clash with the Roosters. A small group of Knights fans given exclusive access.
Short and sharp, so trying to keep us fresh for tomorrow. It's been one of Bedsy's big aims, is making sure we're right to go on the weekend.
Behind closed doors, Warhorse David Farlongo announced his retirement to teammates. After 198 NRL games, a nagging neck problem forced his hand.
A few changes in there this week. I'm not going to go into it too much, mate, but no doubt you probably know.
Sam Mataora is expected to come into the side, while Lachlan Fitzgibbon could also be included. In other changes, Tyler Randall will likely partner Tyrone Roberts in the halves. Danny Levi is also a likely inclusion. The high-flying Roosters are on a 7-game winning streak.
The Roosters have got a good pack and they've got a good team. We just got to aim up this weekend and really have a crack.
With a stiff breeze at his back, Jason Keelan opted for the points, Hamilton taking an early lead. But Wanderers were after a 5-pointer. A swift backline movement found Billy Coffey, who put the ball down in the corner. Hamilton showing the opposition a high level of respect, taking the points at any opportunity. Keelan's boot was red hot. A grubber through the line would find Laufisa Vasagote for the Hawks' first try. The two Blues applied a mountain of pressure before the break. Eventually, Hamilton cracked. Wanderers going into half-time with a slim advantage when Tapaki Rahui scored in the corner. A mistake from Zakatala from a quick line-out would put his side under pressure. Hamilton capitalised, shifting the ball through several sets of hands. Sorelli Bainavalu would touch down in the corner. The two Blues found territory in the Hawks' half and appeared to have crossed the line, only to be ruled held up. They continued to batter away and eventually crashed over through Blair Rush. But Hamilton's 1-point advantage would be enough, claiming the match and all but sealing the minor premiership.
We return now to our breaking story where police are searching a Newcastle suburb following reports of a gunman. NBN's Renee Feder is currently in Katara South. What's the latest there, Renee?
We're here in Katara South at the moment where a full-scale police search is underway. It follows reports that men were seen in the vicinity of Bryson Street at around 4 p.m. with a handgun. All we know at the moment is that there are several police cars on the ground, as well as the dog squad and Pol Air involved in the search for this man. Back to you.
An extensive search was conducted using Pol Air, came up from Sydney, multiple policing resources from across our command and Lake Macquarie.
We've had over 1,000 people signed it already, but today I'm sure we'll get another 1,000 willingly sign it because people in our community in Wallsend know what a good service it is. They use it, so they want to see it continue.
An estimated 30,000 people packed Wallsend's town centre for this year's winter fair, bringing a much-needed boost to businesses.
It's hard economic times right throughout the Hunter, but we notice it here in Wallsend, particularly for weekday and also weekend, whereby we don't get the numbers of people on the main streets.
And not all traders have been able to ride out the downturn.
We've got a lot of empty shops in the main street. Because of hard times where businesses have had to close.
Several months ago, Newcastle Council started working on a master plan to revitalise the town centre, a move welcomed by businesses and the local MP.
The streets aren't normally this busy and we want them to be. We're looking forward to the master plan being implemented by Newcastle City Council and some dollars attached. And I'll certainly help Newcastle City Council and the Lord Mayor. If they need funding from the state government, I'll help to lobby on their behalf.
The Town Centre Master Plan will be ready for Council to adopt by the first quarter of next year, with funding to then be allocated over the next 4 years.
Floodproofing the main street is another key issue, and today Wallsend residents were urged to sign up to trial a new flash flood alert system.
Council has been working with the state government for many years to work out the best engineering solution as well as early warning system we can have here in Wallsend, and all that work will hopefully culminate in a thrive of activity around Wallsend.
Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
We've been talking to those builders and it seems that they use a small number of contractors to dispose of their waste, so we're following that evidence to see where it goes.
Fighting fit and healthy now, but for Newcastle mum Linda Hodgson, it's been a long road to recovery. Diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 47, the last few years have been a revolving door of doctor appointments and hospital visits.
Having tests done and in hospital before you blink and having an operation, and so it was all a bit of a whirlwind at the time.
Offering support along the way, her daughter Courtney.
Mum was so positive throughout the whole experience. She was, a real inspiration to me.
While Linda may have got the all clear, it wasn't the family's only brush with cancer.
My grandmother was diagnosed with breast cancer 2 months ago, so just seeing their struggles and what they went through just made me want to do something to help.
Egged on by partner Marlon, Courtney now has an ambitious plan to establish her own longboard competition.
We're actually out of town at a surfing competition. I got an email from the Cancer Council saying, "What are you doing this year to help?" And light just turned on and we were like, hey, maybe we can do something like this.
It's all about bringing guys from out of town into Newcastle and enjoying what we have every day.
But most of all, it's about raising much needed funds for cancer research.
They're looking at things like whether we can transfer our success in leukaemia to breast cancer, and also looking for new therapies into triple negative breast cancer, which directly affects young women.
To find out more about the event called Tubes for Boobs, head to this website. Amanda Douglas, NBN News.
Down 12-0 early in the first half, Lakes hit back with a solo effort to Josh Charles. Central responded before the break, Josh Allison showing a great fend before Cale Bowen crashed over. The Seagulls flew out of the blocks in the second half, Jay Sullivan getting a decent kick away for Matt Craig. The Lakes winger then went long range to get the visitors back in the contest. But from that point on, the Butcher Boys dominated. Jordan Warboys set up Dane Bamblett with a lucky bounce. Central also went long distance. Skipper Rowan Kelly provided the backup, teeing up Zach Hosking for his first try. Warboys followed that up with an impressive individual play. He launched a midfield bomb to score Central's next try. Shane Ryan slipped into dummy half to set up hooker Jace Delaney, as the Butcher Boys kept their slim finals hopes alive. Broadmeadow needed a win to get back into finals contention. Unfortunately, Callan Lewis missed an early opportunity. The home side was denied a chance as Matthew Houle shut down Liam Thornton. Broadmeadow also went close as Lewis set up Dino Fajovic, but Tim Pratt had it covered. Gary McDermott returned fire for the Bears, forcing Nathan Archbold into an acrobatic save. Archbold was involved again when Thornton teed up Troy Hearfield. The Magic should have opened the scoring when Cale Bradbury set up Fajovic. The chances kept piling up, but Broadmeadow couldn't convert. The visitors eventually hit the front after the break as Bradbury's deflected shot fell to Luke Virgili. With the last spot in the finals on the line, tensions flared throughout the second half. And Josh Piddington put his body on the line to shut down a Bears attack. Western had a bigger hill to climb when Nick Thompson was shown a red card as the Magic moved into fourth.